It is 6:02 and will now call to order the March 25th, 2019 meeting of the Easthampton Conservation Commission. This meeting is being recorded. Are there any public concerns, non-agenda items? Being none, we will move on to public hearings and meetings. First item, public hearing, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation filed by Beacon Solar LLC, Mass DEP file number 151300. Applicant is seeking confirmation of various wetland boundaries at 50 Florence Road, map 115, lots 2 and 5, continued from January 13th, 2019. Mallory, any updates?
Yeah, so I'm speaking with the applicant and the reviewer. What they had proposed was, initially, was to have, the reviewer wanted to do one day in the field on their own, and then they wanted the second day to have the applicant's representative in the field to discuss any discrepancies between boundaries. I talked to Dan at GZA about that and about changing that to, you know, having them do an independent review first, bringing whatever discrepancies they had to the commission, and the commission could decide whether or not they wanted the opportunity to attend any meeting where boundaries were being negotiated. So I just wanted to confirm whether or not that's something that you would like.
I mean, I don't think I want...
It's like you're not gonna know what's significant.
Well, I wouldn't want them to change anything. If they have a recommendation, I'm fine with them.
It wasn't, I mean...
I don't want them changing the site plan before we have a chance to review it. They're not out there to change the lines necessarily. They're out there to offer an opinion as to what they think the lines are or should be.
Right.
So I wouldn't want them to do a revised site plan. I don't particularly care if they're out there, if GZA is out there with the applicant's representative, but I don't want them negotiating a resource area boundary outside of the commission's authority. So maybe then it would make sense for them to bring back what they have found, because if they, and then you can decide whether or not you want to attend the site visit, depending on the magnitude. If you have a few that are just really minor, then it might not feel worth it. Yeah, no, I think that's my preference. I don't want to buy a site plan out of this. I would like their review of the boundaries.
Okay, so I think that's where me and Dan left off. That sounded better. Okay. So I'm just going to confirm that with him, and they'll do their field review and then bring back a list of any discrepancies and how significant they are, and then you can see if you want to schedule a site visit.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Motion to continue to April 8th at 6 p.m.
April 8th?
10th. It's April 8th.
8th, okay. Motion to continue April 8th at 6 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. So moved. All right. Next item on the agenda, request for determination of applicability from One Industrial Lofts LLC for vegetation clearing and slope improvements within the buffer zone of various wetland resource areas and in bordering land subject to flooding at 0 Arthur Street and 1 Ferry Street, map 131, parcels 1 and 2, continued from March 11th, 2019. Good evening.
Hello.
Please introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Ryan Nelson from R. Levesque Associates. I met some of you guys on site last week. I'm looking to pick up where Mr. Levesque left off last time. Quick recap, we have proposed tree clearing along the bike path. Some of it will be grubbed, and some of it along the steeper sections along the canal behind the development is going to be just cut flush to grade. We're going to leave the stumps in place to help stabilize the bank. This hatched area here is the area that Mr. Michon called out during the site visit. more flat, and that's the area he's gonna be removing the trees and the stumps and regrading that area, as well as towards the other end of the property where you can see in the not so steep areas compared to what's new up now. There's gonna be no earthwork along this area.
You were keeping the stumps though, right, everywhere?
Yes, yep, except for the hatched areas. Yep.
But the hatched areas are outside floodplain and buffer zone?
Correct.
Looks like it goes right up to?
Yep, right up to the 100-foot buffer from the bank, and there's a wetland across the bike trail.
So for clarification, this is a revised set of drawings?
Yes, yep.
Can you, and the date on them, it's now 3 sheets?
3 sheets, originally dated February 19th, 2019, with the last revision date of today, 3/25/19.
Originally, the commission had been provided with a single site plan.
Correct.
Is this the first version of all 3 sheets?
So this is a revised, that overall site plan that we
Mhm.
originally submitted. Made some tweaks to that, and then provided 2 sheets that are in just the bigger scale, so
Oops.
so you can see the detail better.
But the footprint of, thank you.
Yes.
The footprint of work has not changed?
Correct. It's the same. Yep.
So, sorry, Jess, you're looking at the.
That's okay.
So can you go back to the first sheet?
Yep.
I was able to look at this briefly
Mhm.
this afternoon when Mallory forwarded it electronically. Let me get it's small font. So, was it on this sheet? Or maybe it was on one of the subsequent sheets. So there's a call out that I would like to, ooh, sorry, Jess.
Which sheet number is that, Melissa?
3. No grinding or stump removal / grinding proposed below the 123-foot elevation,
Correct.
but is there any above it?
Yes. Well, not along the steeper areas. These stumps are going to remain in place.
Just to maintain the
Right.
bank, right?
Right. We just wanted to clarify that there's going to be no work being done within bordering range of the.
Okay, so basically the work has been pulled, the limits of vegetation management have been pulled back and grading have been pulled back out of BLSF, so this is now just work in buffer zone?
Correct.
And what is the footprint of work in buffer zone?
Yep, so your buffer zone
Yep.
there, and then right here is the other side. So from here to there.
Right, do you have a quantification of that? I think previously it was close to 12,000 square feet,
It wouldn't have changed since the.
so it's still 12,000
Yeah.
square feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then what is the slope treatment proposed in that area?
They leave the stumps in place, and they're going to seed it and put erosion control blanketing around it.
So it's already got
It's-
presumably an herbaceous,
Yeah, a lot
some
of herbaceous, invasive trees, and most of the trees, some of the trees aren't in good health, so it's kind of a raggedy, very steep slope.
so they're gonna go in, they're gonna cut the woody material
Yep.
to grade or as close to grade as possible. They're gonna remove that from the site. Then they're gonna,
That's what it kind of looks like.
oh, thanks, Jay. So they're gonna broadcast seed
Mhm.
and then put an erosion control blanket down.
Mhm.
Was there regrading of the slope on the steep section?
Not in the steep sections, no, only within the hatched areas.
And all the hatched areas are outside the buffer zone and PLSF, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there's no grading or slope changes in any jurisdictional area?
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, okay. And the erosion control barrier consists of
Yep, a silt
a
fence,
silt fence.
just installed down gradient.
So this area is going to be accessed,
So they're gonna have to come in from the interior of the site, presumably with an excavator or some sort of crane bucket truck. You need to come through over here, and obviously the canal, they have to come back around and come over here behind the building.
So they're gonna get the equipment on the slope, and then they're going to install or reinstall the silt fence? And then they're gonna do the clearing, or is the clearing gonna be done by hand?
I would say not, no, there's a lot of work it would be with machines.
Okay, so they're gonna put a machine on a
No.
3-to-1 slope?
No. It's
That's what
definitely
I'm trying to
for machines.
visualize.
Right.
Just gonna reach over and
Yeah, I don't
from
know,
the flatter area.
Mr. Michan's logistics and how he's gonna get it done, but I'm assuming there is a narrow strip behind the buildings where it's flat, he can get in there. And then from there, they're gonna have to work reaching up the slope with, a thumb bucket or something.
So they're doing it from below.
Correct.
So is that basically gonna be a lesser?
That's the same as driving on a road in floodplain. But
Yeah.
I just have concerns about getting anything to work on a slope that steep in such close proximity. You're basically taking all the vegetation off the slope, even though you're leaving the root systems, which is a better approach, but so you guys were on the site visit, what do you think?
It looked like it just needs to be all handwork to me.
Okay.
Someone climbing up the hill and just
Sure,
cutting trees.
cut by
and-
hand, yeah.
Cut by hand, but,
Yep.
leaving the stumps, but then if you're trying to get rid of all the undergrowth, then I'm not sure how you're gonna achieve that.
So is there any concern about like slope collapse? Is that what you were?
I'm concerned about the steepness of the
It's really
slope
steep, yeah.
relative to proximity to the flowing water.
Mhm.
I understand you have a silt fence there, but that's a fair,
Right.
you're talking about going from elevation, 126 or 7 up to 136 or 7, so you're talking about,
It's about,
that's a significant elevation change.
In a very short distance.
Right. And I'm just, in general, I have DP's guidance policy on work in buffer zone, less than 5,000 square feet, 50 feet of undisturbed vegetation. Stormwater obviously doesn't apply. We're not in an ORW, an ACEC, or a certified vernal pool, or rare species habitat, but steepness of slope and proximity to resource area. I understand it's a concrete channel, but water quality,
sure.
potential effects on water quality. And at the top of the slope, there's a chain link fence. Will that be replaced?
Correct, yes. The exact, Mr. Michan would like maybe a 5-foot, 6-foot typical chain link black. And so whatever the city is willing to settle with him on. But installed upgradient of the existing fence.
So the existing fence would be left in place?
No,
Or it could be removed?
Yep. Just a couple spots where the fence is caved in down the hill. and-
Yeah, I remember it was in not very good condition.
Right, there's gullies under it, and it's leaning and
And what's the plan for long-term maintenance of it? Like, we'll just let the grass grow and like there won't be mowing or anything like that?
Keep saplings and whatnot down by hand pruning, but over time, just string trim the hillside, I'm assuming.
Were you on the site visit, Michael?
I was.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
It's kind of steep in areas, but there were mostly smaller trees, dead, collapsing, widowmakers.
I'm not sure you're gonna turn this into a lawn, if you're just gonna trim things to the ground just to and keep the stumps, they're gonna try to come back, and like you said, you're gonna have to go back and do maintenance,
Right.
so
Yeah.
it looks like all handwork to me.
Deanna, were you there?
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be handwork. I have concerns about heavy equipment being brought in there.
You know, maybe the equipment can remove the slash that's been cut by hand and drop to the bottom of the hill.
Right.
Come in and drag it out.
Yeah, that was the
Chip
plan.
it or whatever,
Yep.
and save the chips or throw it on
There
there.
was some space behind the buildings to get.
So right now, the question before the commission is whether or not this can proceed as an RDA, as a determination of applicability, whether or not we think this is work in the buffer zone that will not alter a resource area, or whether or not we think a notice of positive determination should apply and that the work, requires the filing of a notice of intent.
Seems to me that based on the steepness of the slope and the proximity, it should be a notice of intent.
I agree.
Okay. Jay?
I'm okay
I mean,
with it. That's the opinion. I don't know what the criteria is to separate the two.
It's DEP policy, and it has to do, it's 5,000 or less square feet, 50 feet of undisturbed vegetation between the project and the resource area. And then the
Say that
other,
again,
Mhm.
the distance from the.
50 feet of undisturbed vegetation. And then, again, this is the MACC handbook, but it says the Conservation Commission should not approve projects in the buffer zone if there are unusual characteristics of either the site or the work, e.g. steep slopes. And it's just the proximity.
Right.
Yeah.
If that's the case, is there an area you would like to see trimmed out so he can continue to do the work in areas that aren't so sensitive?
He can do any work outside of buffer zone and floodplain without any.
Well, there would still be, some areas maybe here or there. Is there a specific area you would like to see it?
I mean, it's where my concern is where the slope is exceedingly steep.
Okay.
So basically anywhere the contours stack up like this
Yep.
is where I have a concern. Is that needs to be revised.
Well, maybe a detailed description of what work is and how the work is going to take place, whether it's equipment or what's being done or.
I think in order, part of the reason for requiring an order of conditions is it gives you additional follow-up and ensures greater compliance than an RDA. You don't have the same rights under an RDA or a determination that you do under an order.
Right,
So
once a negative determination is issued, there's no potential recourse unless and until the resource area is adversely affected. Or the work is done outside the snapshot of what was approved, issued a negative determination. Mallory, is there a mechanism whereby the commission can specifically exclude and issue a negative determination only for work outside areas of a certain slope?
I guess you could do that via special condition. Usually I would require a plan revision, you want a plan revision. You don't want to permit a plan set that shows work that you don't want to approve.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't ever see any problem with folks removing things that they, put in their original application. That's not a problem. It's just adding more, that's the problem. So if you wanted to come back with a revised plan set, but that could be a possibility. But you might get in a NOI filing before the next
Right.
meeting anyway, so.
Right.
To be fair, this was provided this afternoon.
Yep. Understood. So, kind of the game plan, the thought process behind this was he already has two open orders right now.
He has two?
Yeah, one.
Oh,
for
right,
each
one
tract.
for each tract.
Right. And there's going to be forthcoming changes based on some rearrangements to the MassWorks grant along Ferry Street.
Mhm.
So we don't want to just have piles upon piles of new NOIs all going.
Those are,
So-
would he be sidestepping here, the changes in Ferry Street, that would be amended order?
Yes.
If
So
anything, okay, so not a new filing. Not a new file number.
I'd have to clarify with them
Okay.
on what the new scope is, but if the case is you're trending towards an NOI for this, then we'll hold off and we'll include this as part of the
Okay.
upcoming stuff.
Given the revisions, I mean, that is entirely Mr. Michon's discretion. I don't see myself supporting a negative determination for any work on that steep a slope
Okay.
without an order of conditions. I'm one opinion.
Okay.
So I guess the options are that if he's anxious to get work started, you could submit a revised plan. I don't see it requiring much discussion unless the revisions aren't what we discussed tonight at our next hearing, or and then addressing the rest of the slope under, as long as the work's outside buffer zone, outside BLSF, you can amend an order as long as it doesn't increase your impacts in resource area. So technically, as long as there's no work in BLSF, you could amend an order to include that.
Okay.
Or you could file a separate notice of intent for this, because I don't believe this is an overlapping geographic footprint with anything that was previously approved, since you've taken the work out of the floodplain.
We'll have to go back and look at our site plan for the other one, but.
Are you sure on that? And I might be wrong, but
No.
my recollection was that even if you were moving close, like doing additional work in the buffer zone under NOI, you couldn't.
No, buffer zone doesn't have a performance standard or a threshold,
Yeah.
so it's my interpretation that you can increase, you're not increasing your impacts to a resource area, so you're not baiting and switching the initial review process.
Yeah, but you're still doing additional work in an area jurisdiction that you initially proposed. So that was just why I was. I think I had a project in the past that I'm.
In general, I would agree.
Yeah.
But again, my experience has been that it's limited to resource areas with performance standards.
Okay. I'm happy. Like I'm not 100% sure, so I'm happy to also check in with DEP just to fully clarify, because if that could be a very convenient remedy.
See.
And the X is the hatched area?
That's clearing
What was that?
and grub.
That's the area that the stumps will be removed. Hatched areas.
And what about the additional fill will be added as needed to achieve 3-to-1 slopes where possible?
So that area we were talking about above that existing retaining wall, and then there's some gullies and ravines.
So at this point, would you like to defer to our next
I think so, yeah.
meeting
Let me
so that
talk
we can
with-
all gain a little
yeah.
more?
Lay out the options to Mike and I'll get back to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can always too, just like if you decide that you want to do an NOI, you can just email and say that you want to withdraw
Right.
the RDA.
Yep,
So,
yep. Okay.
but I think also clarifying if we can put it in an amended order
Okay,
would be potentially something that's useful.
all right, yeah, we'll take that into consideration.
Okay.
All right,
So motion to continue.
Motion to continue April 8th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
thanks for your time, appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Back.
Thank you. Joe.
It's okay, because I just saw that your last name is Fusa in there. You get to be everybody today.
Different Joe.
Oh, Ryan?
Go.
Ryan? Can I have a plan?
Definition of the steep slope.
It's very steep in general, yeah.
I would call that more of a wall than a
Yeah. Mountain goat cheers. All right. Moving on. Request for certificates of compliance. Request for complete certificate, Riverside Industries, DEP file number 151290, 1 Cottage Street bridge replacement across Broad Brook. expires March 27th, 2021, continued from March 11th, 2019, due to partial snow cover.
Yeah.
Just fell.
So I walked over there last week. I can't remember which day. And it actually looked fine.
Okay.
I think it's because they're not plowing anymore. But yeah, I don't know. They might have done a little bit more, made it the parking area a little bit larger. There's also wetland flags back there. So I know that VHB had gone out there after they permitted this project and they had delineated behind that parking area because Riverside was saying we're not sure that we can afford the bridge. So they wanted to investigate whether or not they could put a road through there. But what they found was wetlands, so.
There's also like this weird landlocked small square parcel that's owned by 15 Cottage Street. So it's not a continuous parcel owned by Riverside. There's this little
Yeah.
area that was parsed out. It must have something to do with the mill histories.
Yeah.
But they don't own 100% of that
Yeah.
swath of land either.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think that they were just, you know, the Riverside was like, can you just investigate potential other options? But then they got 5 Star to come through for them and do a lot of the work at a low cost. So, I don't know about the size of the gravel. I haven't had time to look into it. I have all the plans if we can look through them. Do you want to?
Sure. Do we want to do this or do we want to
We can
pause
move
and
on.
switch gears and then come back to this?
Yeah, we
so
can.
that this person doesn't need to like sit here and
We
listen
don't want
for
to make you wait.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's table that one Cottage Street temporarily. Move on to a request for partial certificate from J.E. and C.C. Keelik. Okay. Whew. Master EP file number 151168 for work approved under the order at 24 Holly Circle subdivision lot 22. So Mallory, have you had a chance to dig through the files? I know the previous chair who was on the commission when this came through stopped by to help because she has a much better memory than any of us. No offense, she does.
Yeah.
So,
So it's the same as when I last emailed you, is that specifically in the order of conditions, there's a condition that says that this only applies to the utilities, the driveway. I can quote it exactly if that's this. Let's see. So it only applies to drainage, culvert crossings, and road work pertaining to the subdivision. It doesn't apply to houses specifically, but it doesn't apply to any of the house construction that individual houses that were in jurisdiction needed to have their own NOI or RDA, and there are a number of lots that do have them for that area, and that was exactly consistent with when Kelly came in, what she said as well.
okay.
So I haven't gone like looking extensively for a permit, another permit for this house. We did a preliminary, we looked through our files together when Attorney Hancock came in to visit me, but I haven't like gone through trying to look through DEP database or anything like that. I know their online database really only goes to like 2005 in terms of like when they really kept track of a lot of stuff. So in terms of this specific order of conditions, this lot was released in terms of this order of conditions, and it was recorded.
Okay, so this lot does not, this was recorded, the release was recorded?
Yeah, so
But
it
it
only
doesn't
covers
show
the
up.
drainage, culvert crossings, and road work.
But we don't necessarily know that there was a permit that covered
The
more
house.
than that.
Right. So the house looks like to the edge of the landscaping, it looks like it's about 70 feet from the bank. I'm from aerial, what I'm guessing. 70 feet from the bank to the edge of the landscaping. However, that edge of landscaping is kind of where the existing driveway is. So, and the existing driveway area was covered. So you could subtract that. You're probably over 100 feet away for the actual house. But I mean, that's riverfront technically.
But if there wasn't an order of conditions to begin with,
Yeah.
that's a totally different issue.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the times when you come across stuff like that, it's like usually do some sort of after the fact permitting, just like as a technical, like that's the guidance that I've always been given from DEP, but I don't know that that would have been, whether or not that would have been allowable. I mean, I think it might be as far as it could possibly be if it was subdivided before.
When was the subdivision recorded?
I think it actually might have been recorded further back than they actually, I think they might have subdivided the lots, the subdivision first before they really like permitted it, but I don't know. That's like a lot of research, so I don't know exactly. That would have to do with the planning board, the subdivision.
Why would a separate one be needed by the homeowner?
If the house itself is in riverfront area or buffer zone, then that would require.
Because there's certain places within the subdivision that are more.
But why wouldn't the builder be responsible? I mean, the house I don't think was even built in 2001.
Yeah, I think it was, I sent an email about when it looked like it was built based on aerials. I can't remember if it was, I think it was sometime between 2001 and 2005.
I think, well, the deed is back to 2003, I believe.
Yeah.
So sometime between 2001 and 2003, probably. And usually, you're right, usually it is the builder or the developer that gets the permit and then closes it out before that first
Unless there
transfer.
wasn't a house there and then there was a new lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But the lot could have been created prior to.
Well, I only live a couple houses away and I thought all those houses were 2000, 2001.
Yeah, the deed was 2001 from Wally Merrick to the
Yeah.
Helix after the house was built.
I think that it might be inconsistent with the aerial photography though. I think it might have been after 2001 because I noticed that there's a discrepancy between the deed and the aerial, like that it was built later. But that wouldn't be, does it say that it sold the house or just the land?
Well, it was 252,900 in
So it should have
2001,
been.
so it was the house.
Yeah, would they pay that to a contractor before it was built on the deed
No.
or no? Okay.
No, they bought the house.
Okay,
He built it.
maybe the aerials, I don't know.
They're just trying to sell their house in April.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, so some of these subdivisions were done where some of these lots were even sold off before and the owners did them, and some of them the developer pulled permits on. There was subdivisions like this one in Treehouse were done this way. Crestview is done that way, which is kind of problematic. But
Realistically, what would the after the fact permit achieve? If it's so determined through file review that one was not obtained initially?
it would mean that the house, everything would be legal, basically. So that, you know, because it's probably considered an ongoing violation. So it would just make it legal. There might be a statute for if it was sold and it wasn't taken care of, then it is possible that potential enforcement action could be taken legally within 2 years. So it's just not that you would, it's just that it's to make it free and clear. But you could also do, I mean, you could also try to just do it as an RDA to say, and issue negative number 2. I mean, it's already built.
It's been built for 20 years.
Yeah.
Almost. The whole subdivision did undergo, obviously, a pretty thorough review.
Yeah.
This was last sold.
I mean, has it changed owners from the original owner at all?
No,
Just-
these
it's
are
just the helix.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, this is just the prior guidance that I've been given from DEP in prior situations. I mean, I can specifically ask about this incident. I mean, we don't tell people to tear their houses down.
Right. So
it's I think maybe just even an RDA might be just to like make sure that it was like technically, I don't know.
So you're saying an RDA and then deal with that, and then administratively in the same hearing, then deal with this partial cert for.
No, because the cert is already issued.
So that's.
For the cert is already issued, and so the only permit that was issued that I am aware of, and there might have been another one that I haven't done that. Like, I need the applicant to do that due diligence. But the only one that I have found is already released, and that doesn't include the house though.
Right. So, but I guess my question then is, why isn't that cert recorded against
The deed.
referenced in that deed?
I don't know. They might have just referenced it wrong. I mean, it clearly says that it releases the lot, so it should, like the other attorney should accept it because it is in the.
Well,
It clearly
what they're
is
looking
because
for is a certificate of compliance as to 24 Holly Circle in entirety, that the whole 24 Holly Circle is released from this order of
Right.
conditions.
So it is.
It is.
It is.
That's what that other says.
Well, it's saying, it says that it was released as to those
But that's
items.
all that ever applied to 24 Holly
Yeah,
Circle.
there wasn't any other permits that I have,
Okay.
like from just
So
our
there's
review.
no issue with the location of the house or anything like that?
Well, that's kind of what we're talking about
Yeah.
now with this whole after the fact something or other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can
which
you
is
guys sign a certificate of compliance as to 24 Holly Circle? I mean, that's all that I need to record, and they'll be happy.
Yeah, I think.
Reissue a partial relative to that prior
Well, yeah. So
certificate?
I don't know if that's the question. So.
They want it as to 24 Holly Circle
Right,
in entirety.
Right. So the house wasn't permitted, basically from my preliminary research, only the drainage and the culvert crossings and the road work, and that relates to the book and page number that I had given you for that certificate
Yeah.
of compliance.
I have that.
So the work that was permitted has been released for this lot.
Okay.
What's happening is that it may be that the house was not ever permitted.
Okay.
So in order to remedy that, we're trying to figure
Okay.
out how to remedy that in
I
the
appreciate it.
after the
Thank
fact
you.
way. But it doesn't enable us to issue a certificate of compliance. We have to figure out another potential way to do that.
Oh,
Or you can just kind of.
Right, so a certificate of compliance has been issued for what applied to that to that lot.
yeah.
So, if anything, it should be an RDA because nothing's going to change.
No, I mean, it's not like you're going to be following up on it, so it seems kind of silly to.
It's almost, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I've talked to the attorney and tried to explain all of this, but they just want something that has 24 Holly Circle released from that order of conditions.
Okay. Yeah, so maybe what they're saying is, I guess I would just clarify with them, say like that, did you sent them that, certificate?
Mhm. I sent them all everything, and they had their title examiner look at it,
Mm-hmm.
and they said they just want a release that has, and I looked up there's a few releases that are on record on that, and they do have the property address released for different ones. The most recent one was 2010. So there's really been nothing since then where this came up, and I wouldn't have had any clue about it until the title examiner on the other end came.
So can you go back to what was in 2010?
That was the most recent release, which was a
Property.
partial release as to 37 Holly Circle.
Oh, okay. That
A
was,
lawyer filed it, and it was signed off that that whole property address
Signed
was
off.
released.
what did you say?
I think my signature's on there.
Oh.
Jay's probably is.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't know how your
so,
signature looks like.
There's an M
I
at the
can't read
beginning.
one of them. But
It might be
anyway,
the one you
this is basically what they're looking for, something that says that.
So can I see
It's-
that?
yeah.
I only looked at it briefly online.
Was my house in there? I'm 35.
so they're looking for it to specifically say Holly Circle?
So it references 151168.
Yeah,
It's 37, this was for 37 Holly Circle. It's a partial,
yeah,
and it says 37 Holly Circle only.
yeah.
That's my neighborhood.
And those in 20.
So that, but what I think we're trying to clarify
The
is
chair at
the,
the time was on the board when the subdivision was permitted.
That's what I need, is something like that.
but that's what's recorded in the registry. That's
That's
what I'm
on
trying
record for 37, yeah.
to- No, I mean, the bookend page that I gave you before, that
Yeah.
is your release for that.
I know.
property.
I know.
Yeah, so,
But she's in a tough spot because they're not accepting that rationale.
would you like to give me their phone number?
Yeah, I can't, I don't have it on me right now.
Okay, do
but
you
I
want to
can-
email it to
I
me?
can get
Okay,
it, yeah.
and I will be happy to speak with them.
Okay.
That, we'll figure out the house.
Not right now.
Okay,
Think about that.
Okay,
We'll talk.
okay.
thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you for having that with you.
Yeah,
and
this
doing it.
time is of the essence. I mean, this whole transaction is really ready to go, and I'm
Yeah,
just trying to figure it out, so.
okay.
But I will get you the lawyer's contact
Okay,
info.
I can speak to them regarding this particular,
Okay,
like the drainage and the culvert and all that work
Okay.
in the driveway. Like
Okay.
that is all is released.
okay. And in the meantime, is there anything that I should be looking up or researching or trying to figure out if anything
I think that
is out there that would be helpful?
Melissa, do you just want to touch base like
Yeah,
shortly?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Let's see how your conversation goes.
okay. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
send me that information and I'll
Okay.
respond back.
All right. Maybe that'll work.
Try
Thank
to
you very much.
take it.
No problem.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Okay, back to, so technically, let's continue this. Let's continue this
Getting
to,
to the 8th of April.
The developer would have put that
That's
in
a
their
motion.
name without them knowing. They would have to.
Not a motion.
Specific.
is there a second? There's a second? All those in favor? Sorry, we'll come back to that, Michael. Aye, vote, aye.
Aye.
Great. So it would be recorded against the lot if they were a separate order of conditions specifically for, but the lot doesn't have a deed until the subdivision, no, it does.
I
Once
don't
the
know.
subdivision's recorded, I don't actually know how that works.
Usually,
Anyone? Damn it, Jay. You're supposed to know these
Well,
things.
it just sounds like that was the only order of conditions was what's been released and you're done.
yeah. Well, so
That was done in '99. The house wasn't built till 2 years later.
Yeah.
they usually do it like they will record the order of conditions and things like that before they subdivide it, and then they'll
Right.
subdivide it, so then it will automatically get connected to all
Right.
the other deeds. So usually that's the way I have seen it, but it doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah, no, it's, subdivisions are messy.
So this is Riverside.
Okay, Riverside.
Riverside.
That
I need to
too.
go to the bathroom. If you wanna look
A motion.
for the,
No.
if you wanna start looking for the gravel, for the material, I think that was the one question, and then, down the, there is some of that very fine,
Blue crystal.
yeah, I don't.
Like 1 inch or smaller?
Like this. They're almost like, it's like peat gravel.
Okay.
You know,
Smaller than a centimeter. Is that what
it might be,
Well, that doesn't matter. Here, go.
Encroaching down the certain sides of it that.
We're not gonna finish before you come back.
Okay, let's discuss.
All in favor?
Alright.
All right. I'm looking for a details. What? Park? Holly Circle's off of
Park.
Park.
Right before,
It's just south of 232 Park.
right across the street. That's where
The
the
solar
solar farm is going.
project.
It's the left before you hit Strong.
Right.
No, left. Sorry.
Left, both of that.
The other left.
The other,
And
No.
the place we accessed it is called the Plain Road. So it's like
Main Street?
Plain
Plain
Street.
Street. That's like between.
For the Tomaszewski stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Moving on.
I found the map.
here's the works. Coming down.
You did this anything though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is
Yeah. Yeah, then just,
and this is Plain. Okay.
see, they see the map out there.
Yeah.
Seriously? This is poor plan land. There's one thing up here. Come on. These also say not for construction. So they may not have construction details.
What's the issue with the stone size?
Yeah.
I think it's really small.
There's nothing on here.
Maintain
It's just
erosion
kind of-
protection.
Yeah, I mean,
There's nothing on these.
like all of it is, a lot of it is gone from that like parking, the side parking area. Like it's not even there anymore. It's like dirt
This is,
now.
there's snow on the ground, but this kind
Yeah.
of stuff behind
Yeah.
that thing, yeah, it's really small.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, this is from when there was snow, but this is where
I'm
that,
not getting my gravel turns.
Yeah.
they did the retaining wall, they put
Just
this
use your
thing to protect.
finger.
Well, it's not even gravel. It's just small big gravel. so
Yeah, it's
It's processed stone.
yeah.
But it's very small.
Small diameter processed.
With my rock words.
It's not soil.
It's not so.
Yeah, so in the parking area, a lot of it's gone now because it's been
Okay.
plowed to the. So there are like little island piles of,
Because they plowed the snow in.
and it
base.
moved all of that
Yeah.
basically because it was very
It was
squishy
just,
too.
that was snowing in.
Yeah, I did take pictures. I haven't uploaded them yet, so
This is from, 6 weeks ago or more.
I have less snow, so I did get some less snow over there. I think that along the banks was one. Do you want to? Yeah.
Did you see it on both sides of the bridge?
Yeah, I looked on. I walked. I crossed it and I looked on both sides. There are like sections. You know how there's those. I forget what they're called. The concrete divider.
Barriers?
Barriers. There you go. The concrete. Not a good word there.
We all have
The concrete barriers. Like you know how there's separation, but like there's areas where it's not a full line. Like those sides are the sides that I've seen it kind of travel down the sides of it.
So it's almost like getting eroded along that edge.
Yeah. And then the other thing I thought was like they were supposed to do some invasive work.
I don't see anything about stone thus far in their description of work or in their narrative.
I don't remember any discussion of it either. And it wasn't there before, at least not that type of process stone wasn't
No,
there.
this looks like it was added.
Is it possible that it was added for other purposes and not related to the bridge?
Like, One Cottage Street did it.
Yeah,
No, I know the contractor did it.
okay.
Because I talked to him about it because I questioned the size of
Yeah,
the
it
stone.
wasn't there before the project started.
So it's Not really seeming like it's in the description of work. Or on the drawings.
I mean,
So work
was it
description.
I thought that they were leaving the slopes like the way that they were originally, which was vegetated, and there might have been some actual gravel on some of the sides of them. I can't.
I mean, they don't show, oh, they show some tree line. They don't show any change in tree line.
Okay.
And they show saw cut here. They don't show any work over here. Yeah,
this was
saw
the
cutting
end.
pavement. This is a 12-inch RC, existing 12-inch RCP. That's that random parcel I told you about that belongs to 15 Cottage.
Well, it was just like, this is the edge of the woods, so
Yeah.
that area, that parking area is like right in front of it, right? Okay. Yeah. I mean, that area has been repeatedly cleared. I looked back briefly on GIS. It looked like it had been over time, pretty much, fairly consistently for quite some time. I don't know that there was gravel
Well,
or
this is a
stone
photo
on it.
before the deck was poured, and that was material similar to what they brought in.
I think that's even bigger. That's even
It looks a little
larger.
bigger.
Yeah.
But
So I guess the question is, why did they bring it in? It wasn't part of what we reviewed. Or if it was, how was that supposed to be conveyed? Because there's no reference in the narrative to stone being brought into the site, and there's no note or area otherwise called out on the drawings.
But they did add some retaining walls, right? They poured some extra retaining walls.
Concrete blocks to be removed during construction and replaced after construction.
They're supposed to be the same blocks, I thought. I didn't think that they were adding
Yeah.
anymore.
Metal railings to be removed, asphalt to be removed, sign to be removed, pole to remain, concrete block to be
There
removed.
also was, I didn't know how, I couldn't remember, there's like almost like a parking area here on this side. And there was stone added to that area too. I don't know if that was, yeah.
So maybe what we need to do is we need to ask someone from Riverside Industries to come in and talk to us about these adjacent areas that appear to have been modified.
I think it was relative to, yeah, maybe, the contractor and Riverside.
And we have, are these, so was that stone part of a dewatering facility?
No.
No, okay. Because that area, that's what was called out over here,
And that stone,
stockpile dewatering.
that stone is everywhere. It's all
I
over.
get what you're saying, I'm trying to come up with a plausible explanation.
I don't know.
And short of having them come in and talk to us about this, I don't
Yeah.
know, I mean, I can come up with a couple ideas, but that's about it, and they're not productive, it's not productive.
Is there a site visit?
Alright, so I think,
Or maybe we could schedule a site visit with them.
okay, so
It was
do you want
adopted.
a site visit with the contractor and the VHB? Is that way? I think that they might be.
Who filed the RCOC?
VHB. So they said if they have questions, if we have questions, to go to them, but I know specifically that the contractor, like I had made a comment about the material at the time that I told them that they could take their silk fence out so that they could open the bridge up. So I think he might be able to just like stick to it more than even the consultant could.
I mean, the last time VHB sent a consultant to our meeting, they came out of Watertown.
That is where they're coming from.
Right, not the local office.
Well, actually, hold on.
Did this one come out of?
Let me just double check.
Yeah. I just don't know that it warrants,
Right.
at least at this point, we could.
This one came out of Springfield.
Who signed it?
John Furman.
Who's the contact listed?
Here's John Furman.
Okay.
John Furman, PE, Springfield, Mass.
Could reach out and say we'd like a site visit with the contractor.
Okay.
That VHB is welcome to attend, but need not attend at this time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And copy whoever the contact is at Riverside.
Okay.
If we can get an answer more locally than potentially
Yeah.
having someone
Travel.
travel all the way from Boston,
Yeah, it
I
might.
don't want that to become a burden to Riverside Industries.
Yeah, I know it might become a little bit like touchy only because 5 Star did. I believe they did it all for free.
Doesn't mean
Well, I know. I'm just. That was very.
that was very generous.
But yeah,
That's
I
a
think-
totally separate matter.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so can we get a continuation, or can we try to set this up for a week from tonight? Maybe? April 1st? Just kidding, no, not kidding.
Don't do it.
Sorry, I thought there were so many things with deadlines.
I got a
on April
meeting
1st.
invite for April 1st and it
It's
said the
not a
same
joke.
thing. Yeah,
It's-
this isn't a
My
joke.
birthday.
Just
You
kidding.
Oh, your whole life.
You probably said no to that, yeah.
You never thought of like lying about that by a day?
It's sad. It's a big one too.
21.
It's an anniversary of my 21st birthday.
Aren't they all?
How many?
Okay, so aside from Jess, is everyone, and Michael, do you have plans?
Probably. I hope so.
I do it another time, so if you.
Well, I think we
more
want to try to
people-
get
yeah.
out there, well, I was trying to do it before April 8th.
Yeah. So you were
And
like.
I mean, theoretically, I could do a Saturday morning.
Me as well over my birthday.
So Saturday the 30th, maybe?
Sure.
Or Friday the 29th? 5:30? Woohoo, Friday night!
We're pretty close now.
We don't have the other party's input.
Right.
So, I mean,
You might have more luck on a weekday. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
How about 2 weeks?
They don't like the Saturday morning or the Friday night.
Well, it's light enough at night, so
Yeah, I mean, I guess next week, if Monday night doesn't work, how do Tuesday, Wednesday, not Thursday?
none of them work.
None of them work?
What about 4/8?
Aren't you retired?
I am, but we're going someplace, so.
What if you would you be able to do it like at 5:30 before your meeting? I know it's kind of
That
annoying.
cuts it really close,
I
but
know.
we could
But you're
maybe-
right there.
I know.
That can work.
That
And
can
then they
work.
could come to the.
Sure, we could try that.
Okay.
So motion to schedule
Wait,
this.
before we do that, can we just look at the invasives plan so it's fresh in our mind? Or is there not invasive?
I couldn't find it in here, but I could have sworn that we did talk about doing some. Does anybody else remember that?
Yeah,
Was it kind of ancillary to the work they were doing, like they were already carrying it?
Yeah.
Yeah. They didn't
We'd
really.
have to go back to our meeting minutes, I think.
Yeah, I think that we would.
Okay. So
Can
you
you
bring
make a
it to
note
the.
that we
Yeah.
will review the meeting minutes
Yeah.
leading up to the March 27th, 2018 issuance of the order of conditions?
Mm-hmm.
Could you read that date again?
March 27th, 2018?
Do you want to do 5:30 or would you be able to do 5:15? Or is that pushing it?
That's probably as, can we do 5:20?
Okay, I can do
5/22?
5:21 in 30 seconds. Yes, you can say 5:15.
Okay.
I can try to.
Try to get.
We can also just wait until 5:20.
I don't like making people wait.
I've
Not always easy to
had like all day site visits where I could have been in like 10 site visits in one day.
I don't want to do that.
And well, I've had to tell people like at 20 or 40 or like all these increments because I don't want like to wait, you know, to have people waiting around. So
Wow. Well,
You want to make the
A
motion?
motion to try to schedule a site visit for 5/21, the 8th of April, and a motion to continue to the 8th of April.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Okay. Mallory, have there been any emergency certs?
no.
All right, enforcement, 37 South Street. You still looking for info?
Yes.
Okay.
I have lots of other things that happened at 37 South Street, but not this one.
Oh, well, great.
So what are you actually looking for?
There was some restoration, like
Restoration plan?
Yeah, as relative to this enforcement.
Well, if it was
Action.
emailed, then I should be able to find
Okay.
that.
Okay.
So I will look for it.
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
Yep.
Okay, next, Bernard Gall, vicinity of Groveland Street, Florence Road, map 115, lot 2, and map 128, lot 64, Mass DEP ACOP 0001958.
Nothing.
Okay. Autumn Properties, rear 161 to 165 Northampton Street. You still looking for info?
I actually got some information from Dan Buttrick today. He sent me an email thread that had, basically it was saying that they had submitted it was a draft restoration plan and it had kind of been forwarded by Jessica Allen in October of 2017. And the draft restoration plan was sent by Mark Reed and it was done by GZA. And so I went,
This is for buffer zone.
it is?
161 to 165 Northampton Street. Wasn't this just buffer zone?
I honestly haven't looked at the restoration plan yet, so I don't know.
My recollection is that the owner
Was mowing the
went
trail
in and like
the
brush
buffer
hogged a
zone.
trail through buffer zone.
That's all it was.
We're like, hey, watch it for invasives and let it grow back.
So I talked to Dan at GZA because his name was on it and I was already talking to him about Florence Road. And he said that my understanding from Mark Reed at Heritage Surveys is that the restoration plan was approved. I also heard last fall that they did not implement the plan last year. That is the extent of my knowledge. So it seems like the restoration plan might have been approved, but they never implemented it. I would have to look at the restoration plan and then look at your minutes. But was odd because the draft restoration plan was in October of 2017 and then I started in November of 2017 and I don't remember.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I thought it was older than that.
Yeah.
In fact, it would have been 2016 because that's the year.
When the enforcement was done.
But yeah,
That's what
so the draft plan would have.
What is it? Does it have a I see it on here.
Now, if you can come up with a better file plan storage idea,
I've been trying.
all for it. Are there any flat file drawers?
No, Jeff said that he would support buying some, but they were like wildly expensive.
Yeah, they are. That's why they're like that.
Yeah, so he was kind of, but we might actually have extra money left over from that grant, more money than we thought, so there might be, it's just if you don't get like the really nice ones, which are the Safeco ones, if you get like a little bit lower of a brand, you can like do okay. It's
Maybe I'll
not.
sell you mine.
You do? You have them?
Like a 6 foot tall. this
Flat
wide.
file?
What's a flat file?
It's like a big flat
for
drawer that a set of drawings can rest flat in instead of getting rolled up.
We have them in the copy room, if you look in the copy room.
Where's the permit?
I don't know, I also been trying to make and organize the minutes, so. Do you want me to just forward you what, oh, here we go. It says GZA Draft Restoration and Monitoring Plan, October 12, 2017, PDF.
I feel like there's a gap in minutes here.
Here, it's right here, too.
Do you have the meeting minutes?
No, I have an email from Mark Reed on Friday, October 13th, 2017, as required in the enforcement order EO 2016-001, attached is the draft restoration and monitoring plan dated October 12, 2017. So,
Okay.
maybe they, like, sometimes, you know, you issue it in December and nobody brings you anything until later on. So maybe that's what happened.
I remember we did a site visit.
I remember there being a lag time between the
Yeah.
enforcement order meeting and them coming back to us with that.
Mm-hmm. But that was probably town meeting. Okay.
So I can forward you what Dan sent me, and that has the draft restoration plan. I haven't found the actual, there was an approved.
Okay. Yep, that would be helpful.
Okay.
All right.
There was an email back to David Boyle back in July of 16.
Yeah.
That must have been.
He handled it on behalf of the
Right, brother.
the family.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were requested to for emails on this topic. Last meeting.
Okay. You ready?
Cernak, Westview Terrace, map 165, lot 47.
No update.
Okay, seasonal. St. Bridget's Cemetery, Our Lady of the Valley Parish, Everett Street, map 145, lot 37.
Did I spell cemetery wrong?
No,
Spelled it wrong.
I don't think so. I'm gonna Google that.
Yeah, so I issued that today, so that's,
Issued today. Okay.
that is out.
Okay, so the next compliance date is,
Okay.
no, cemetery, you spelled it right then.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay, I might have spelled it wrong in the enforcement order.
Oops.
Oh.
Spend so much time trying to make it work.
It's E-R-Y.
It's a good spelling.
I'm
Is
just.
that why there was a squiggly line under it?
It's E-R-Y.
Yes, correct. That is correct.
So the next one is, so I said they can come to the April 8th meeting for ratification. So that will be the meeting that you'll ratify it at. I just usually like to give due process them an opportunity to come talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next meeting that they, you know, if they don't come to that one, then they have to attend the April 22nd meeting. So that's what I have, so then they can discuss it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so on April 22nd, they should nominate the consultant.
Okay. Okay.
So we'll see how that pans out.
Any other enforcement actions?
No.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
Okay. Okay, ready. Okay. Equidale West Orchard area improvements. Any further discussion, correspondence with Andrew Morrison, Land Stewardship?
No, not yet. I know that he was going to go, he said in early spring, basically go out there and do GPS some of the area.
So can you reach out to him to ask for confirmation of that schedule or that the task has been completed? Because it's early spring.
Yeah, he told me it would take kind of a little while, so, and I can touch base with him. I was writing the RFP draft, and I was just ordering the add alternate. And I had mowing as number 1, and then, or brush hogging, sorry, I keep saying mowing, but it's really brush hogging. And then stump grinding. What are your thoughts on that order?
As Alt 2?
Yeah.
Sure. And is it clear that that needs to be prevailing wage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we
I don't want to go down that path again.
we did talk about what we did talk about though was that we could do the bid and then say that for the price and then say that the contractor can keep the wood, but they need to subtract market or like, you know, general value of estimated value of the wood or something like that. So that it would get subtracted, but it doesn't change that we still would baseline pay prevailing wage. Like then that's what's calculated. So that was what we talked about because I was concerned about it because I know like with forestry you're doing like sections of a forest in order to pay for your good forest management practices, so it's common.
Okay. So you said you started to draft the RFP? What's your goal?
I think that what we were talking about was trying to find a dry spell in the summer to do them, and then so I think what I'm hoping is that at the next meeting I can have my draft will probably be done. It's just I want to go over the mapped area because it's a huge it's a pretty big piece of land, and then I'm also if you're clear cutting over an acre of land, like, you know, you're not disturbing soil.
You're not technically disturbing the soils until you're grubbing them out.
Right.
What about nesting habitat? When is that?
Right. Yeah. So that was kind of the other thing was that I believe some of the nesting birds are kind of in the area where they are treating. So that's why I was wanting him to, and we talked about how he was gonna GPS it, but it's also like not that great nesting bird habitat because it's full of invasives. It's like it's degraded habitat. Like you could segment brush hog it so that you weren't doing the that's a lot of times what Mass Audubon will do is they'll do certain sections where they'll mow. So it's not the worst thing to do.
Okay. So just backing up. So the goal of Andrew GPSing treatment areas is to update land stewardship site plan and provide that to us?
Yeah, so that we have a better idea of like in terms of making sure that that area is mowed so that they can move forward with treating, and that was like the specific target area for invasives. So
theoretically land stewardship could bid on the brush hogging.
They could, but I would have to do like the brush hogging in itself is going to be nothing. You know, it's going to be like 1,000. I would guess so. It might be depending on the area.
So, I guess what we talked about last time was land stewardship can conduct the mowing/brush hogging for a fee of $1,000. We were going to speak with the city treasurer about procurement limitations and proceed with coordinating tree removal with LSI.
No, that's not accurate. So
okay, that's what the minutes reflect. So we need to revise that. What is your recollection?
So, can you read that sentence back one more time?
Let's go back to the beginning then. Keep us in the conversation. All treatments depend on tree removal. So it should be an on, because you will get revised, which is pending. 3 treatments remain. All remaining treatments are foliar applications. Remaining treatments can be conducted during the summer months. Okay.
That's right.
Completing tree removal prior to the remaining treatments will increase the effectiveness of the treatments as the trees are heavily laden with oriental bittersweet. vines, and the removal of trees will reduce the volume of vines, thus reducing the overall mass to be treated.
Yep.
The trees in the back portion of the parcel are planted closely together, and the front portion has sparser trees but thicker vegetation. Andrew Morrison will collect GPS points at the planned treatment areas. Mowing/brush hogging must be scheduled to avoid bird nesting season. LSI can conduct the mowing/brush hogging for a fee of $1,000. Agent Larkin will speak with the city treasurer about procurement limitations.
I think that was more relative to the prevailing wage and the forestry stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
And proceed with coordinating tree removal with LSI.
Yeah, so LSI is not going to be taking down any trees. It's just coordinating with them about the timing of taking down trees for their treatment. So I think that's the part.
Okay, so that should be elaborated on further.
It may not be
The schedule of tree.
clear. Yeah.
LSI will not be conducting tree removal,
Yeah, they don't do that type of work. I hope to just,
but they brush hog.
they will brush hog. I don't think they want to do a whole orchard, but they'll do that area.
Okay, so that modification's been
Right.
made.
It just, I think the conversation that I had with with the treasurer was basically, you know, you might get, and what I had with LSI was you might get a better deal if you put it as mowing as an add alternate with the tree removal, and then it will ensure that, you know, if the contractor needs to get in there first to take the trees down, that they don't have brush in their way, that they can do that themselves.
Okay. So,
But I think in future years, LSI might end up doing it, if that makes sense.
the brush hogging.
Yeah, because there's 3 years of treatment.
Yeah. So, you're going to complete your draft of the RFP for the commission's review by our next meeting?
I'm gonna try.
Okay. Add alternate 1 is brush hogging, add alternate 2 is stump grinding.
Unless you,
That's fine.
okay.
It's an add alternate. And the contractor, with the caveat that the contractor can keep the wood, provided they subtract the estimated commercial value of that timber. Is there anything else? Did you get all that, Jess?
Maybe.
Can you say that with more confidence?
Maybe.
There we go. All right. Ready to move on? Compliance updates. Jess, are you ready?
Sure.
Rapid fire.
Just tell me no updates and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, Mallory. Pleasant Street Mills.
No.
Lathrop.
Wait, that was too fast.
Wait, you said you were ready.
know.
Copy and paste.
Okay, I've got no updates, copy and pasted and now ready.
All right. Lathrop.
No.
Williston off Taft Ave.
No.
Easthampton Nashwanik Pond.
No.
Loven.
No.
No activity.
1 Cottage Street we've already discussed. James LeGrand, 19 River.
No.
Easthampton White Brook Broadbrook.
No.
Holistic Industries.
They started working on the building.
Is that still the hazardous building materials abatement work, or
It looks like they have done more than that, which
so now they need an email?
they emailed me. They had a number of conditions that they still needed to meet before they could start doing any other work other than the
So what did they
asbestos
email you?
abatement. Today.
So they didn't meet the condition regarding minimum 48-hour notification?
They didn't meet several conditions that I specifically allowed them to start on their abatement work without meeting.
Have you responded?
I have not. I went out and did a site visit on my way on my way back from the post office. I just looped the parking lot. It was about 5 o'clock. I just wanted to check to see what had gone on site prior to responding. I had sent a very clear email about, you know, that absolutely was required that the other conditions be met prior to initiating any further work. It does not appear that that was the case.
I mean, the answer is they have to meet those conditions or receive a cease and desist until they've satisfied those conditions.
Right, yeah, and if they're continuing to work, some of the conditions are a little bit more beefy and they're not gonna be like a 5-minute turnaround.
It's fine.
They have invasive I think there's, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know that there is additional information I think needed for their invasives work they were gonna do. So they may get a cease and desist if they don't earlier than,
So have you given them a deadline?
I gave them a deadline previously, which was that they could not move forward with any of their additional work until they met those conditions, and they went ahead with that work.
So now that they've gone ahead with that work,
Yeah,
what was your response?
I have not responded yet.
So I think that needs to be reiterated.
Yeah.
That they, per your whatever date correspondence, that they have failed to, they are in non-compliance with the order of condition relative to whatever the conditions are
Yeah.
by number. And that failure to meet these conditions, failure to continue work, meet the conditions and continue work by this date will result in the issuance of a cease and desist order until the matter has been resolved.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna take them,
I don't care how long it takes.
no, I'm saying it's gonna take them maybe like a week to 2 weeks to come up with that information. Right, but I think that they're going to continue working unless I issue them a cease and desist.
Well, then issue them a cease and desist.
Okay, I will talk to them and I will, that might be the outcome. I hope that it doesn't come to that, but.
Well, I mean, this is the option, so I said by this date,
Right.
or,
Yeah. I think that it's just gonna take time, so it's not like I could,
they can get back to you with the information. And they can get back to you with something. Whether it's some of the information, a schedule about the information, some sort of discussion,
Yeah.
rather than ignoring it.
Yeah.
So are you gonna be able to reach out to them tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Sounds like fun.
Yes.
1 Industrial Lofts LLC, 1 Ferry Street, Tract 1 and Tract 2.
No.
Have those orders been recorded?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, so if what Brian Nelson was alluding to is accurate, and there's a need to amend either or,
They can't amend it.
they can't amend it until they've recorded it.
Yep.
Okay. Easthampton Park 1 LLC, Park Solar 1 LLC, 232 Park Street.
No. No, I don't think that one's been recorded either.
Okay. River Valley Co-op, 228 Northampton Street.
No.
It hasn't been recorded either?
Nope.
Okay. All right, moving on to general business. Meeting minutes, March 11th, 2019, as discussed and revised. Emailed this PDF out later in the afternoon.
Motion to approve the minutes from March 11th?
Second.
All those in favor?
And I should say meeting minutes as revised
Yes.
during this meeting.
Yes.
I was abstaining because he wasn't here, right?
He didn't tell me he was abstaining.
All those who can participate. All right, I will revise the PDF and send that out probably tomorrow. Is there any further correspondence, agent updates?
Yeah, sorry. I'm just gonna apologize in advance, but.
It's 7:20.
What does that mean?
It means
Children are going to sleep.
I know.
No, not nearly.
Her children are going to sleep right now.
They're
Maybe not yours.
Just not
They're
mine.
certainly not mine.
Okay, I'll try to
Mine
be
either.
succinct.
Yes.
Not that I ever am. So, U.S. Fish and Wildlife reached out to me about.
Can I just ask for clarification? Are we talking agent updates or correspondence right now?
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Keep it
Okay.
This
It
is,
got separated. I'll put it back
you
together.
put it back together.
I put it.
This
Yeah,
is
I put
Cynthia
it together.
Bettner with the water chestnut removal?
Yes, I know she spoke to you initially.
She tried to.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Well, I
get back
asked.
to her.
I said, "Did you get far? Or did you just get reread it?"
I was like, you're gonna have better luck with this conversation with Mallory.
Yeah.
Because
So basically she's retiring, and so this water chestnut removal and management program that they've been doing in the Connecticut River watershed is not going to have anybody to manage it anymore, and also their permit had lapsed.
I think they had a negative determination.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm using permit.
It's okay, I'm just clarifying because not everyone's
Yeah,
here.
it's was a negative determination, and she said that it expired in 2017. I haven't pulled it up.
That sounds about
I
right.
mean, or 2018. It might have been 2018. I'm sorry, I might be wrong.
A few years ago that we talked about it.
So basically, they have several areas in Easthampton specifically that they have been hand pulling water chestnut. So they have been doing it in, where did my list go? They have been doing it in, my list is, Rubber Thread Pond, Nashawanic Pond, Lower Mill Pond, and then the Connecticut River Oxbow. So basically, since she's retiring and she doesn't think that anyone's going to have her position, she was kind of reaching out to local conservation commissions and saying, hey, would you mind being the permit holder for this? And also trying to coordinate like volunteers. I think her overall goal was kind of to have some institutions or organizations involved in the project, that to give it continuity, because right now she just has mostly like general single people who are volunteers.
She doesn't have any contacts on the Nashawanic Pond Steering Committee?
No, so she had kind of talked to Gary Golas from, he's not on Nash Pond, but
He was for years.
yeah, and he's still doing stuff for them. And I know that there were some people that were interested, but I think that they have kind of been like, well, we only do Nash Pond, like we're not doing anything else. And that they've been very like, that's our focus, and we don't, so Mass Audubon is gonna do the Connecticut River Oxbow. They're gonna do the hand pulling there. I was also told by Cynthia. Sorry,
Cynthia.
Yeah. That Mass Audubon might be willing to train like new volunteers that come, because they just do this all the time, so that they know how to do it really well. But basically, it was kind of like discussed that maybe having the commission be like the central organization might be the best way to go about it. There are already individual existing volunteers for some of the ponds, and they haven't been finding a lot in them. It's just like having somebody to report back to and somebody to hold the permit. So that was kind of the request. So I talked to Jeff about it today, and I think what we were concerned about was just like limiting burden on time, especially because I can't really take anything additional on. And I basically said, if there's existing volunteers, it's sort of just like having a place to funnel to send updates, and then just see that we have volunteers. And I know that people are just paddling the lake like once or twice a season, and they're really only pulling like 6 plants or so in the ponds at this time. So it's not a lot, but it's basically that, and then holding the permit, and then if we didn't have volunteers and that people wanted to volunteer, we could send them to Mass Audubon maybe to get trained. So like that was just, I wouldn't have to train them, or it's just a intake of, it's project management, I guess, but not crazy project management, because I think this program's kind of almost over.
So even though the program is almost over, do you think she's endeavoring to have it carried on in a decentralized way, on a community by community basis?
Right, so I guess when I say that it's almost over, in the sense, I mean, I think in at least the areas that we would be responsible for, or have more responsibility for, which would be the ponds, that the water chestnut is very well managed and under control there. So it's kind of just in the home stretch of trying to keep it out of the pond. And I mean, she was telling me that basically she wasn't even sure if some of them that they weren't well reported in the last couple of years, that maybe some of them didn't even have any the last couple of years, and that one of them was reported to have about 6 plants. So.
And can you remind me, what time of year does this occur?
I believe, let's see. I think it's in like June.
Okay.
That's when they pull them. Okay, late May and the end of September. So anytime, so yeah. So June through mid-August, they haven't dropped their seeds yet. So by like, I think after the end of, mid-August, they start dropping their seeds. So it's just, to catch them before the seed drop. And then, I don't know the ins and outs of Nash Pond's herbicide or aquatic vegetation management program. But, maybe this is also something that they can absorb, but I think in the meantime, it's kind of like, just looking for like an overarching, like, kind of like funnel for everything to go, to get it re-permitted.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, you said you discussed some of this with Jeff?
Yeah, I we discussed, I gave him basically the same thing that I gave you
Okay.
in terms of information.
So that would be someone in the planning department submitting a permit an RDA for the next 3 years.
Yeah, one of you can also do it if you recuse yourself. I've had a lot of, if you want to do it for the Conservation Commission, you can do it that way. I've had people do that.
We're missing 2 people,
Yeah.
so maybe we either volunteer one of them or wait for everyone to be present to discuss.
Yes. So she told me that she's retiring at the end of the month, but she'll be back like in April. But basically, she was looking to follow up with me this week about maybe any like major questions that y'all have. I know you don't have much time to process it, but is there anything that like stands out to you that?
It would be the schedule and then the post-removal management of the material. How that's done, where that's done.
So I think
they need to fully desiccate, right?
I'm not as familiar, like this is not a very plant that I'm invasive that I'm particularly familiar with. I'm usually familiar with like your milfoil and all that. But I think for the most part, a lot of people are told, like, even with like milfoil and stuff like that, to put them in, they can put them in upland compost a lot of the time. So a lot of people will do stuff like that with a lot of the invasives that are aquatic invasives. So that might be what people are doing. I haven't fully gone through all the materials that she's given me, and she's also told me that one of the people that will be continuing doing the volunteer work and who has been doing it for a while is another Fish and Wildlife or U.S. Fish and Wildlife employee. So like they might have more specific answers than they have in the documents that they've given me.
Okay.
I can also forward these to you, and you can ask.
Why don't you forward them to the rest of the commission?
Okay.
Or the entire commission. That would be helpful.
They also gave me the RDA that they filed, so
I'm pretty sure we still have it too.
Yeah,
but
we could just do one that's exactly the same.
Very similar.
Yeah. Yep. So that was the major thing.
Okay.
The other thing is I just got a notice today from Eversource that they that they intend to selectively apply herbicides along the right-of-way that pass through your municipality.
This is in accordance with the the VMP?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you told me what it is again.
Beautifully written letter.
What?
I'm sure it's expertly written.
I read it.
Did you
Where
sign
is
it too?
William Hayes.
It's on my page.
Yes.
Notice from Eversource to selectively apply herbicides.
Along right-of-ways within the city of Easthampton in accordance with the VMP, Vegetation Management Plan.
Oh, and then the last thing was about the auger.
Oh, okay, so it's 120
125. If
plus
there's money,
shipping.
yeah, if there's money in the grant, then we could use that. I think
Okay.
that what Jeff kind of more wants is like some kind of storage. We haven't really talked
Wait,
about.
we're buying an auger, is that what it just happened?
Mallory's requesting that if grant funds don't cover it, that the commission approve the release of filing fee funds for the purchase of a soil auger
Yeah,
to the tune of $125 to $150.
yeah. I think it's just can be helpful in certain situations. Like in certain situations, especially with like enforcement, it's good to like be 100% sure when you can be, especially when things are really unclear and there's been alteration. So for those instances, I wouldn't want to overuse it and get into weird, bad situations.
Right, you're not delineating boundaries for
Right.
anyone. You're just field verifying or checking
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah.
So, since we are so limited in what we can use those funds for, I have no objection.
No objection.
No objection, no objection. All right. So,
Okay.
All
So
set.
so if I can't use the grant, then it's okay to use the web.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
thank you. All right. Anything else?
Yes.
No.
Well, she used up all my time.
Sorry.
So the CPA is going to have their annual meeting next month, on the third Thursday, that's a public meeting. And they're trying to update the community preservation plan, and they're going to ask all the departments if our goals are still the same. So this is our Conservation Commission goal that we've had in the past.
Can you give the date of the meeting, please?
It will be the 18th of April.
Did you say Thursday?
It's Thursday, yes.
At?
6:30, probably upstairs if we can secure the room. So we don't have to decide this tonight. We can talk about it next meeting.
So Mallory, sorry, Jay. So
Just if their goals are the same, that's fine. If
the
they're not,
contact might
oh,
change.
sorry.
Sorry. I haven't been informed.
Well,
Baseline.
they'll probably get an email at some point.
So creates to be way records. These are all great guides, guidelines. Yeah.
Okay.
Why is the contact information?
Well, I don't check that email.
Okay.
So you do them for? Is it for every year that you do the goals, or?
It's supposed to be for every year, but
Okay.
sometimes they don't change. Like
Right,
these haven't
okay.
changed for a few years, but. So there's no urgency tonight. It's just,
Okay.
You let me take.
you've been notified.
When is it?
Yes,
April
sir.
18th. This
Yes.
one it
Yes.
is? Okay. Also, the open space plan I believe is supposed to expire this year. It's like December.
Is that planning or conservation?
It should be planning, but
Takes
I
the
don't
lead.
actually. I don't even
The
know.
last
I don't
open space and
remember.
recreation plan update, planning took the lead, and there was PVPC involvement.
Yeah, usually the local planning commission, they have like templates and update stuff, so they kind of.
Updated not that long ago, like maybe 4 or 5 years. If
Yeah.
It's a 5-year plan usually,
I think it was 2014. That's why.
so it was 5 years ago.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I can't remember if they have to file a new one or if they can continue to update this one, but that might be something that ends up happening.
I don't think that was necessarily an update. They might have been a new one because the other one was so old.
Yeah,
I think the city was alternating open space versus master plan updates.
Yeah, I honestly haven't looked at it since approximately June because we've been knee-deep in permitting. So I have to go. I think the last time I looked at it was when we were looking at the Chapter 61 stuff. So
There's items from last meetings minutes about Fort Hill Brewery.
Hmm?
Okay. So I think I reported back that I went to Fort Hill and I didn't see anything, and then I spoke to Tom from Mass Audubon
I don't think these
on the phone,
maybe they're important.
and I just talked to him about what he saw, because that was what Julie had told me. She said Tom from Mass Audubon, let me know that he saw a lot of sediment.
ATV kind of stuff, or that kind of?
He's got these he has a BMX
Right.
situation going up there. The building inspector went to go visit him recently. It might need to come down. I don't have the full update on that.
But it's being addressed.
Wait, what is over here?
Yeah.
Well, right now we don't have there's nothing that we can do. I didn't see any sediment the times that I went. I talked to Tom. I said, we don't have direct jurisdiction over water quality, so it's you have to basically tie it. In past instances, you have to basically tie it to potential alteration, or you have to get basically a video of it ending up in the river. So I said to Tom, next time if you see it in severe weather, please feel free to document it and send it to me. The other question is that potentially if there is more of a course that goes or loops around the back that might be at lower elevation. I know there is a lot of there is wetland back there, but I don't know or have access to that property.
Right.
The Fort Hill Road, just downslope of the brewery, is covered in sediment. And it may have nothing to do with that, but
Well, the water
it's
goes
really
over,
noticeable.
well, the water's under the road maybe in that section.
It's north of,
North of
or not north of that, whatever
Uphill.
direction is south of that, uphill of that.
that.
Yeah, it's the farther away from the Oxbow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. How do you, from what vantage point have you seen it?
The road.
Okay. So walking, if you were starting from the crossing and walking towards Fort Hill?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
It is a little mysterious where it all came from, and maybe it was from their parking lot. I don't know if their parking lot is paved or not.
I don't think the parking lot's paved.
It wasn't.
Okay. I know the land below is owned by a school that closed.
The Tri-County School?
Yeah. So ordinarily, I would consider that's not public school, is it?
No.
Reaching out to them, but Jeff's basically said that that would probably be fruitless. So.
Other things on the minutes still. Westview Terrace stays on the minutes, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 14 Industrial Parkway. Stormwater
What
permit.
was the last? Oh, yeah. So there were comments from me and from the city engineer about the project, but and I didn't get to see the city engineer's comments, but the planning board decided to approve it with the condition that they had to file an area determination to confirm that it wasn't wetland, or to get an order of conditions and redo their stormwater permit through the Conservation Commission, which I would have kind of preferred if they waited, but yeah, the area has some alterations. I'm uncovering some very more recent alterations in the area of wetland that was on plan sets that we have in our files, which is kind of it's becoming a bigger issue. So I'm kind of waiting for him to come back, but the depth of groundwater there is 19 inches in the high points.
That's pretty shallow.
Mm-hmm. That's a foot elevation. That's 195, where the low elevation, where there's a lot of deciduous vegetation, is 194. So
So less than a foot to groundwater, or
so it's
yeah, less than a
probably,
foot to groundwater at the lowest elevation.
yeah, I think it's probably like at almost at the surface.
Can you say again what the planning board approved it with condition?
Yeah, I helped Jeff write a condition, and I don't know if he used the exact language that I put in there or not, but basically it was to require the applicant to get some sort of sign off from the commission. I guess I would like to be more careful about what exactly it says when I don't fully know what he put in that decision.
Okay.
Okay. Loudville Road property, no update.
No, and then I wanted to circle back about that with you, Melissa. I know you said that there was a survey that said that it was on the neighbor's property.
So I ran into the owner's brother/brother-in-law, depending on which owner you're referring to,
Okay.
and asked in passing what was going on, and he indicated, this is earlier this winter, he indicated that there'd been a survey, a property survey or some sort of survey that suggested that the problem was actually on the neighbors, the adjacent property, and not entirely on the parcel we were focused on. Which is kind of consistent with the approximate parcel boundaries on an ortho photo where you saw like the denuded area.
I think that there may definitely be some areas, but that, Jay, like when,
It was mostly behind the house, right?
yeah, like that whole slope was gone, you know,
Scary.
and all the there were all below, all those trees were cut.
So at this point, any emergency certifications that were issued have expired.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Long expired. And
Yeah.
so
I know the neighbor has a retaining wall too, because I spoke to the neighbor about it, and at the time, and the neighbors had said that he didn't. Oh yeah, I had a similar slope collapse, and I had a retaining wall put in, and that he didn't say anything about that was his property or anything like that. So I don't know. But I'm sorry.
someone said in passing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, right.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, this is not a matter before the commission.
Yeah.
Unless we're pursuing enforcement action.
Mm-hmm.
So, unless you hear something.
So it can drop off the
What did you say?
Drop off the list.
notes for next time.
Okay. So
There's nothing to report. I mean, it should
No.
be here for now.
I mean, I don't think that they're going to voluntarily. There's not going to be voluntary compliance. So it's up to you about whether or not you want to pursue it. So.
I think there's obviously been multiple violations. There's been alteration of vegetation.
Yeah.
There's been deposit of fill. That's affected at a minimum land underwater and riverfront area and BLSF.
Yeah, I'm also concerned about what is like. There's old silt fence that's holding up the toe of that slope. Apparently, I don't know what they. I mean, I have to go all the way around to see what's behind there going on. So, we crossed the Manhattan River to see.
Do you think you could compile a defensible enforcement order?
Potentially. I think that it was obvious when we went out there and we documented that those trees had been cut and that those trees were directly part of the slope that fell off the side of that. There was a lot of cut trees and it was directly attached to a huge piece of land that just slid down.
You see.
And they weren't cut after the fact. Jay was saying these are old cuts.
Yeah, some were old cuts.
And even if there was no debris down there, that I think that slope was being cut for the view of Mount Tom.
The view of Mount Tom?
You can see Mount Tom very clearly through their backyard now.
Isn't that the opposite
I
direction?
think it's the other way, but.
Or you can
Mount
see, sorry,
Pomeroy?
I might have the
It's
wrong
Warner-
mountain.
Mount Warner.
There's a mountain.
Mount Pomeroy?
Pomeroy, maybe.
Warner's
Yeah,
over in
sorry.
Salt Lake.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry, wrong mountain.
Memorize the one
Really
with the
big
cheese.
view.
Yeah.
My orientation on Laughville's not good with
I feel like you can see Mount Tom from like.
Maybe, I don't know which mountain it is, but if there's a mountain.
Is it the one where it's like you see the silhouettes of trees on top?
I can't
That's
remember.
Pomeroy.
Pomeroy should probably just
But yeah, you can see that now.
Is there an address for property?
298.
I don't know. So it seems like regardless if it is their property or not, if they're the violator, then you can still take enforcement action. They just need to get the owner's permission to actually do restoration work on their property.
So how much enforcement action can you take if the property owner on which the violation occurred
Says no.
says no?
So you could do restoration to basically to like within the limitations of that property, so long as it didn't hinge, you know.
So then taking another parallel discussion here, do you foresee this coming together in the reasonable future? Because, you know, you're following up on, you're just starting with St. Bridget's. Cernac's gonna kick up again in the spring. We've gotta close the loop on 37 South and 161 to 165 Northampton Street. We've got potential compliance issues relative to holistic industries.
Looks like a busy week.
Yeah. Well, I think what is more,
So in terms of priorities, what's going on?
I think that, I mean, what had happened was the city planner had said, you know, had entered into a conversation with the owners, you know, that they trying to do voluntary compliance, and I was not at the time, and I did not agree with that approach. And I wasn't aware that that was the approach that he was going to go with. When we had set our meeting, that wasn't, you know, what we had discussed. So that's kind of what happened. And then when we had discussed it at the meetings, we kind of went through giving them multiple emergency certs, and then them pushing that it's an emergency, but we want an enforcement order that lets us do this long period of, gives us as much time as we want to do the work. And we had to say, okay, well, you're calling it an emergency, so how can we not issue you an emergency permit? Like, that's not, it doesn't mean that, you know, you get the enforcement order for the long period. But we, based off of kind of what had happened with the owners and what they were pushing, we kind of said, okay, we'll give you the opportunity to do the voluntary compliance, and that's just never amounted to anything. So I think that's kind of why we've ended up further away than had we just gone with the enforcement order to begin with. But I mean, we gave them the benefit of the doubt and that they would do it, and they chose not to, so.
Okay. So, I guess getting back to, do you see this being addressed in the foreseeable future?
I think that the order could be issued. I think I honestly don't see, the one thing is you can issue the order, but I don't know that they're going to comply with it, so they might not. I think that I would stick to trying to get them to do restoration work by sometime in the fall. But I also know that it seemed like they didn't really want to do any actual restoration work. They just wanted to do
What they wanted to do?
Yes.
So the other option, or another option, I should say, is to reach out to DEP.
I already talked to them about it at the time. They basically said that they didn't want to be involved, but I can talk to them again.
And just let them know that this was the avenue the city went down and it didn't result in any action, and is there any additional support that they can provide?
Do you have a particular person at DEP that you would like me to ask this of?
David Palace.
Okay. Yeah, I can check in about that. I think I mean, one of the things that you could do is that you could issue an enforcement order and record it against their deed. So that's still something that some commissions do, and they have people that are unwilling to comply.
And then when it comes to potential transfer of title, it comes up.
Yeah, basically.
It seems rather.
It's kind of it's really only used in situations where you really can't get someone to comply and it's a major violation, and that's basically the only times I've seen people still use it in this day and age.
Yeah, I don't really. That doesn't initially set very well.
Yeah. I mean, that's just an option that I know of.
Okay. All right.
There's one more thing.
Oh, Michael has a thing too.
But I think it's the same.
Same
It's
thing.
the,
Okay.
is it Crestville Circle?
Crestview.
View. That's wrong in the minute. Crestview Circle, Holly Circle, White Road. Take it away.
Going it out.
I guess. So correspondence was received questioning applicability of the city's stormwater ordinance.
Oh,
Was there any
Yeah.
follow-up on that? The
no.
attorney decided to say it didn't apply.
I started writing like an opinion about it, and then I got distracted. Yeah, had to go back to doing my other work, so I didn't finish it.
Michael
But
has some photos.
I just took photos from yesterday from the north side.
oh, okay. This is Holly Circle. The Holly.
This is
side,
the
okay.
Where Holly-
they started building a road.
Yeah.
So Crestview doesn't exist yet, but it looks like he's starting to connect Holly to the other side, Crestview,
Yeah.
the other neighborhood.
Did it look like they were doing work recently this year?
I think it was
Okay.
before the winter.
Yeah,
That's when he
that's-
dropped off
that
these
was-
Those
cement.
cement things have been there for a while, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things that we also had talked about was that they would come back and talk about some fill material that they had been storing in Riverfront and a lot of catch basins that they had also been storing in Riverfront area. And the fact that they would need to be paving that road and putting in sidewalk. They might need to change, I don't know if all their utility stuff is. They had updates to their utilities, I know, in like 2017 with the planning board. I don't know if that's.
They never, I guess the long and short of it is they have not had a valid order of conditions for any work at that location
For a long time.
for a very long time. So anything that they would come to the Conservation Commission with under the Wetlands Protection Act would be new.
Right.
And the topic of discussion at the meeting that the city had with Matthew Gall, his engineer Terry Reynolds, and the Gall family's attorney Thomas Vincent,
Mm-hmm.
was also attended by Jeff Bagg, Mallory, myself, city engineer Dan Murphy, and assistant city engineer Diane Rossini.
Mm-hmm.
Was all kind of focused on the potential applicability of the stormwater ordinance relative to the work that has not been undertaken at this location. And to paraphrase, Attorney Vincent came back with an assessment of the city's stormwater ordinance that said, the subdivision plan was approved, therefore there was an approval, and it predates the ordinance, and we don't have to deal with the ordinance.
Yeah.
And I think where, Mallory, correct me if I'm wrong, where you might be coming from is that under the Wetlands Protection Act, there is no valid approval.
Mm-hmm.
Any work proposed within areas subject to Wetlands Protection Act jurisdiction, such as riverfront or buffer zone, is subject to full stormwater review.
Yeah, and the stormwater ordinance explicitly says that if you've gotten all your permits.
They don't have all their permits.
Right, and they don't, and then the way that the stormwater ordinance is applied is but through Conservation Commission or planning boards, so, the way that he wrote it, it seemed like he was relegating it based on subdivisions and planning board approvals, and I think the way that if that was to be accepted, it would change the way that the ordinance was interpreted. I don't know that it's been sent to anyone, and I know that there was still the outstanding stuff about in I was expecting to hear from them some update about what their plan was moving forward, if they were going to get an order of conditions, what work they were gonna propose exactly to do, and then about like the storage of materials that was going.
Yeah, so the materials they have stored there, it's always been an open area and the materials are inert, so from an alteration impact perspective, that's not the most egregious thing ever.
No.
But if they were to start building a road into riverfront and buffer zone,
Yeah.
then they would need an order of conditions for that.
Well, they're doing I think the biggest thing is there is a lot of land disturbance that's going on, like it's a large area, and that they are moving that that soil around, and that pile is getting bigger, and or pieces of it are being taken out, so it's sort of.
So is any of the work that's being added to it in riverfront?
I can't personally go on the property without trespassing, so
I do all the time.
I have relied on photographs from the city engineer, aerial, Landsat, like that's what I have. So
Can you follow up with the city planner regarding that latest correspondence?
about the stormwater, okay. So what would you like on that? Do you want me to just
If he
give
is planning on a response, a rebuttal?
I think that they were gonna try to just have the city solicitor look at it, but I know that they just changed the city solicitor, so.
Okay, well, whatever the next step is and wherever
Okay.
that stands.
Is he storing stuff in this area for Crestview? That's where that fence is, right here.
Okay, I don't know. I thought it was all on this side.
No, this
Except
is
for
on the
so
other
who owns
side.
the pink? Is that the city?
Mm-hmm.
So Mallory, there's also potential, the city owns a parcel of land along White Brook. Oops,
What's
I don't know. Potentially? Is it possible that they deeded a parcel of the undevelopable area over to the city, as has been done on so
Do you
many
have
subdivisions?
do you have it up?
What's the map and lot?
It's Pasquamicut
Oh,
County.
PC.
Oh, I've walked, that's what I did, is I also went on their land, and I
So,
looked.
Michael's asking if any of the materials that are being stockpiled in riverfront area are within the limits of PCT land.
I mean, I don't think so, because they pretty much.
That gate is over here.
Let me see,
Well, the gate starts at the house here, right? So this is where the
Can you
gate is.
turn the base map on to for the photo?
Okay.
There might be this area, this front
So
area.
can you make out the gate?
I think that PCT starts like back here at the
PCT owns
edge of the
both
land.
sides.
Yeah, they own both sides of White Brook.
I know it's because I saw the neighbor here, and he was working the fences, so.
So I guess what Michael's wondering is if Mr. Gall's, or the Gall family is stockpiling materials on land that is not theirs to stockpile on.
Gotta figure out where that fence is.
Well, if you're saying it's like in line
It
with the
goes
back
pretty
of the
much
zone.
back. This is where the pile is right there.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's probably catch basins and stuff on that, well, but it's also like on the road shoulder, and I think that
But the city owns the road.
not technically, I don't think. I think
But he's also
because it
storing
has to
stuff
get
over here.
accepted, would be fully built to be accepted. So I think they own, in the road, when it's completed, I think it's gonna be 30 feet wide. This is only like 15 right now, so they might own the shoulders.
Okay. So I guess, well, that's annoying.
I think there's a lot more than there was even. It looks like a lot, there's even more of them than there
We'll
was
have to
before.
go back and compare to previous photos. And if they're putting new materials there after that meeting, then that's not okay. Because it was pretty clear during that meeting where things were.
Yeah, but they also haven't come back to talk
Right,
about
so that's what I'm saying, find out where the city stands with a response to that.
To not only the stormwater, but also that they were going to follow up about the others. Okay. I know in the past you said that you potentially wanted to schedule a site visit. Is that, I don't,
Find out where the city stands with things first.
okay, I'm not sure that he might ask me for my thoughts on it, so if
up to you.
Okay. Well, I wanna know how you feel.
If there's a site visit, then that's great. I don't know what, short of counting concrete structures and determining if more have been added, that would be gained.
Yeah.
I'll just keep my eye on it for any
Thank
future.
Well, I think that maybe just sending a follow-up email that was addressing like the specific wetland related things and wetland permitting, and saying that we were expecting potential follow-up. Also, like, you know, this is a major area of land disturbance. And follow up on that piece, and then I think that Jeff probably wants to separate the stormwater ordinance component from the wetlands to some degree,
Okay.
even though they might end up back together.
And regardless, within riverfront area and buffer zone, the commission has the state stormwater standards. So it's not like this is a get out of jail free card, and the NIPD's construction general permit applies regardless,
Yeah,
if it's an acre or more.
that's a very large area to
Here,
clear.
I mean, an acre is a large, well, it's not just clear, it's disturb. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, there's, how many acres
Well,
is?
we can count structures on the aerial photo here.
But he just stored it over here on the property, see this?
Oh, there's some on the other side too.
That's just on
Fantastic. Possibly on PCT's property.
I'm wondering when they're gonna do 2019 aerial.
Can I sign on this, please? Okay,
Can I move to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
is there a second? All those in favor? So moved. At 8:09. Oh my.
Impressive.